Hello Sunshine and welcome back to my channel, Sunshine in My Code. My name is Swahudimo Matlapeng and today we're going to be talking about the different roles that go into developing a tech product and what other tech careers there are for you to possibly consider. So to make this example a bit more practical, what I've decided to do is we're going to use an example of an e-commerce website let's say Takealot, which is a localized example, and we're going to look into the different roles that could possibly go into developing such a platform and what roles you could play, and maybe this might spark an interest for you to go into different tech careers. So you're developing an e-commerce platform that allows people to look through products, log in, and then check out and then possibly buy something at the end of it, and then they'll get it delivered to you by a delivery vendor, right? That's a simple application. So let's look at the different roles that go into developing that. The first role you would probably have is a backend engineer. So the backend engineers look at your business logic and how to implement that. This can be things like transactions. How are we going to manage every time a user makes a payment? How do we process that payment and get that money from their bank account to our bank account online? Also things like user storage. When a user logs in, how do we manage that user data? How do we store it and how do we retrieve it later on? Back engineers will also look at things like for your trolley. How do you store information that's in a trolley? How do you store information that's in a wish list? And how do those things differ? How do you also then store products that users can view? And how do those products get retrieved later on for users to be able to view them? And that's what back engineers really do. They work on the business model and storing user data, the web service that the product actually uses. Some backend frameworks will include Django, Pyramid, Node.js, and Ruby on Rails. The next role we're going to be looking at is the role of front-end developers. So front-end developers kind of develop the product from the user-facing point of view, and that includes the layout of the site, where the trolley button goes, what the login page looks like, and they'll also work very well with back-end developers to kind of handle the processes in between. When a user clicks on this product, what function is triggered in the back end, and how does this affect what the front end will look like? So the front-end developers will work on creating a beautiful, rich, and simple to use front end that users can use, and that front end will work very closely with the back end to kind of give users responses and store user data. So you're probably wondering, but do front-end developers automatically know what the site will look like? And that's where user interface developers come in, also known as UI developers. So UI developers will kind of design the layout for the site, what it will look like, what each button will then look like, where stuff will go. So organizing the site and making sure that it's as user-friendly as possible and as gorgeous as possible, because the more beautiful and user-friendly a site is, the more likely people are to come back to it or make a purchase simply because the user experience made sense. So user interface developers will tell you things like the checkout button should have like a little red thing on a little red button on it that lets the user know that they have something that still needs to be checked out. And this is a good alarm reactor because people tend to see red very visibly, and UX designers kind of use this kind of knowledge of how people see things to better optimize the product for users' experience. And then what you also have is user experience designers. So what user experience designers do is they actually think about your product holistically. They work together with user interface designers to kind of find the best way to design your service and ensure that your users really get the best experience. But user experience designers go a step further by thinking about the product as a whole. So if you have an e-commerce website, user experience designers will think about, is there a way to deliver this service in a better way? Is there a way maybe we could change our business model to make the whole experience a whole lot more different? They'll think of things like, maybe we could charge people a bit extra to have same-day delivery because people seem to be complaining about delivery. So user experience designers don't just think about the product from a technical perspective, but they think about holistically what the business is trying to accomplish and finding the best way to do it, whether it's through a technical product or just simply looking into other ventures of improving the service. They'll look at the product holistically. Another role is data scientists. So data scientists will use your data from the application and analyze it and try to find the best way to optimize the site. For instance, you may notice that a lot of e-commerce websites have recommendation systems which will tell you that based on what you've bought, we know that people with your similar interests tend to be buying this, and this is based off of previous user data from other users that they can use to kind of find out what users specifically like. Data scientists can also find out which products your users like the most, and they'll also be able to tell different things like people are on the site at this specific time. What does this mean? Can we harness this to determine when we make our sales and how we communicate our sales? Data scientists also do experiments such as if we allow users to kind of make it all the way to checkout without logging in and only require them to log in when they're actually ready to purchase a product, this is more likely to get people to actually create an account, as opposed to if we don't allow people into the site or to have a trolley up until they've actually logged in. And you may find that different experiences hold different results. How do we actually improve our product based off of user and customer feedback, based off of user engagement, and how do we maximize user engagement based off of how people have acted on the site in the past? So a huge part of data science is just cleaning up user data and then running a couple of models to find out the best way to analyze it. The next role is DevOps engineers. So DevOps engineers sit between developers and sysadmins, and what they do is kind of trying to create a continuous development pipeline that's as easy and as efficient as possible, that also leads to as little downtime on the site as possible. So you've got your site and everything's ready, but you need to deploy it, and you need to ensure that you're implementing some of the best ways to deploy it to handle traffic when it comes to the site. You need load balancing. When all your users are logged in at once, how do you manage all of that? When your site is down, how are you going to know how it's down? When developers implement new features, how do they make sure that these new features aren't breaking previous features? So all of this is handled by DevOps engineers, and they try their best to make sure that your infrastructure is as up to date as possible. And this also makes the job of developers much easier. That means that they can focus on developing and creating features without necessarily worrying about if a new feature will bring down the site, and unless of course the code base itself actually just brings down the site, in which case DevOps engineers can't help you. Thank you so much for watching Sunshine in My Code. Remember to subscribe to my channel, hit the notifications so you can be a part of the notification squad. And if you enjoyed this video and found it useful, remember to like it below and follow me on my social media and ask me any questions if you have any interests. Thank you again, and see you in the next video.